We'll have justice one day. One day.
I felt like his killer was in the room with us.
I don't want to see where he was laid to rest at. That's not a good feeling to me. A good feeling to me is where we used to joke at, where we laughed, where we used to try to talk to girls at, when we used to go to the corner store at. And that was in Stanley Home Village.
You ain't always gotta be down, you could, especially when the girls come around, you could. To all the black people, all the people in the world, we gotta put the guns down. We losing too much of our good people, too many of our talented people to senseless violence.
Joyce McKinnon and Willie Hogans are two victims of a culture of increasing violence in Atlantic City and Pleasantville. Their killings, like many others, remain unsolved, despite the knowledge of the killers' identities.
I'm living here where her life was taken, and it's not a pleasure for me to be in. What I go through, nobody knows how I feel but the Lord.
What happened, Mr. Ingram had killed a gentleman in Sassafras in December. And I guess from that it was retaliation, thinking that my mom was his mom. So that's where everything came from. She came in from work. She went downstairs. She was watching TV. Then all of a sudden we just heard this bow. Call the ambulance, call the police. By then we already knew what was happening. I ran to the window. I seen the guy pull his hoodie over his head. I called 911 like 10 times. Nobody still responded. By the time they arrived here, it was just too late. We all lived here together. Me, her, and my two daughters at the time when the incident took place. She just was an outstanding person.
The sad part is, I've been waiting for that because I knew it was coming. But I just didn't expect it to come so soon when it did. Getting a knock on my door about my brother's death, I don't want that for my son. We moved out here in Egg Harbor Township to get away from it because one day I came home from work and my son was like 3 years old. He had a rag hanging out his back pocket and his pants hanging down. 3 years old. So I knew it was time for me to go. It's like it's no secret. Everybody knew my brother got high. Everybody knew he did dope. He was a booster. A booster is, they're thieves. But that's just a nice name to call a thief. Because a booster, like some of them, you give them a list. This is what I want. And they'll go get it for you. Yeah, anything you want. Flat screen TVs, but I don't have none of that here. I work for mine. Yeah, but that's what he was. And no matter what he was, that was my brother. And they had no right to take his life. He would skip school with his friends, and I believe that's where he started on the drug scene in high school. My brother could walk the streets of Atlantic City forever. I don't even remember him having a fist fight. Maybe when we were younger he had a couple, but in his older age, I don't even remember him having a fist fight. Everybody loved my brother. He was murdered for merchandise, stolen merchandise. He was paid before he got them the merchandise. When he didn't come back with the merchandise, they felt like he ripped them off. But from my understanding, he was paid in bundles of dope, drugs. They took his life, but they don't know what they did to the rest of his family. He has a 1-year-old daughter, 1-year-old daughter. The police came knocking, banging on my window, my doors. Still to this day, the knock that came on my door, I don't wish that for no one. No one.
Basically, I mean, we're out here, trying to, basically back up patrol as much as we can, and, we're kind of like a proactive unit in a sense, so, I mean, in the meantime, if patrol's handling the calls and they don't need our help, answering some of them for them, we try to come out here and do a little bit of proactive work, hit some of the, I guess, higher crime areas in the city, and try to deter as much as we can.
Stanley Homes is affiliated with the Dirty Block Crime family. They also have some subsets or younger sets, ABP, YGC, Young Generation Cartel, and the All About Pimpin', All About Paper, which are the young sets. And also they had a group called the 33rd, which was actually just the third village of Stanley. They were the younger kids under the older ones. That's the primary gang in this particular projects.
It's really where you grow up at. You know what I mean? If you grow up on this side, you're part of this group right here. If you grow up on that side, you're part of this group right here. It's not really a pick and choose thing. It's where you grow up at, what neighborhood you're actually in. Because if back in our days, it was really more or less called the neighborhoods, like Pitney, VAC, back Maryland and stuff like that. We didn't have names like Dirty Block and H Block and all the rest of that stuff.
I learned a lot about it, and it's something bad to be in and something bad to play with, And when it's causing people to lose their lives, they need to do away with it altogether.
Violence is part of daily life in the neighborhoods beyond the casino lights. Often it's related to drug activity. Fear of reprisal keeps witnesses silent, complicating the work of investigators. Meanwhile, the families cope every day with the fallout.
No one wants to be a snitch. No one wants to tell on their neighbor. No one wants to do that thing. It's something that happened inside of them. They saw someone not do well because of what they said or what they look like or whatever. So people have that hush mouth kind of thing. And the old days, we didn't have that, because if you walk down the street and if you broke a bottle and a glass on the sidewalk, your parents made you go back and clean it up. Today, they'll throw the trash on the street and just keep on walking. No one will say anything to them.
They have this thing called no snitching, and a lot of people live by that. A lot of people fear for their life. And I can't say I much blame them. But I'm wondering if it was their family member. Wouldn't you want people to speak up?
There's a lot of real good people that live here in the city, and I guess they're scared to give us any info what's going on, and it's another reason why we're really out here. We're just trying to just do what we can to try to move something along.
Knowledge is interesting, but useless. Evidence is what counts in court. So, people can know or say they know, or investigators can know and say they know, but unless it equates out to evidence, it simply doesn't count. It's if it doesn't exist, in the job that I have to do. And the hardest part sometimes of being an attorney in a prosecutor's office is to look at investigators who, have been, killing themselves, getting knowledge and getting information, telling them that this is information, it's not evidence. We got to go back and get evidence. But that's our job, is to make sure that what comes in here and what we base our cases on is admissible evidence. What I found out about victim survivors and families of victims is that they want to believe that you're out there fighting for them, and that They want you to fight for the memory of their loved one. And if you're in court, even with a weak case, you're obviously fighting. But it's very hard to, when nothing's happening, at least to their eyes, it's very difficult, without being able to go into specifics, to look across a table at people and say, we understand your position, it's a valid position, we are working as hard as we can, but the evidence simply is not there yet, but we won't give up. I mean, it takes a real leap of faith for people after a period of time to continue to believe that. And I understand that. But that is the single hardest thing to do in this job, is to look at people who want justice and not be able to give it to them when they want it.
I mean, like, what is it? What can you do? You can't do but so much. And I'm just a voice. But we need other voices to voice their opinion.
Bolstered by Atlantic City Police intelligence, multi-agency raids crippled 2 of the most violent drug gangs.
Yeah, since the roundup, it's been very quiet. The residents are very pleased with us. We get thank yous all the time. Kids are allowed to come out and play on this playground when they're out of school now. And it's made a significant impact on the drug trade.
Last year it seemed like it was pretty bad with the shootings and the guns and everything, and then this year it seems to be quieting down, so I think things just go in trends. Me and him got a lot of guns off the streets. I mean, never really had anybody
pull one and turn it on us.
But there's been plenty of people that we've chased.
There's probably one over there. I mean, there was one on Indiana Avenue. I think it was actually around last summer. We chased a guy into basically one of those buildings over there. And when we came in, it was pitch dark. The guy, and we knew he had a weapon on him. We just couldn't see his hands, and like I said, it was like that unknown. You don't know what they're going to do, what they're thinking.
It's a great start. The last gun buyback program we had in the county netted, I think, 511 guns. We're already up over 700 in a little over half a day. So it's tremendously successful in light of past results. We have 700 guns right now. That's 700 less opportunities for tragedy in the county. 700 less opportunities for burglaries to occur in a home, a gun be removed and then placed into the illegal stream of commerce. 700 less opportunities for kids to come into possession of loaded guns, not knowing how to use them, or really not knowing the import of what they're holding.
Kids are educated much more than what we were when we was coming up. We didn't know anything about guns and murders and drugs. We just didn't, it wasn't out there like it is now. Today, getting a gun is like buying candy, which is not hard. I mean, it's so easy. And you'd be surprised of who have guns. But the question is, where are they coming from?
Now you gotta, I'ma make you. Now you gotta, I'ma make you.
I would have to say the biggest misconception about Atlantic City when it comes to violence is that people don't want to come here because they're scared for their safety. And I think that it's completely inaccurate. When you make statistics and then you say, well, Atlantic City's extremely dangerous, it has one of the highest crime rates in the nation. Well, yeah, you're looking at violent crimes versus population, and it's high. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think it paints a true picture of Atlantic City. The reality is, there's millions of people come here a year, millions, and they just don't factor that in. And it's different. It's obviously difficult to quantify something like that and how many people are here versus a crime. But I don't think it's fair. It's definitely not fair to base statistics off irrelevant figures.
Floyd Talley grew up in Atlantic City. The gangs in his neighborhood were like family, helping him survive when his mother died. He has been on both sides of the struggle against violence.
I grew up in a, single parent household, took to the streets, at a young age, 15, 16. Well, my mother passed away when I was 16, so I basically had to, fend for myself from that point forth. Times has changed, like when I was out on the street doing Peace Up Guns Down, one time we had went to a shooting in the village, and there was a dead body in the ground in the village. And kids was outside playing like it was something normal. With the times changing, yeah, of course, there's lesser fist fights and more, gun battles. And it goes back and forth. It does, like I said, don't get better, it get worse. Like say one person gets shot, next week the next person get, killed. Everybody in the city knows that that person shot that person in the leg, but now he's dead, Now his friends got to get back with him, and now he's dead,
Because now they feeling like nobody don't care about us, what we do. Only thing they care about is when we act a fool and we do bad things. That's the only time they care about us or they talk about us.
We got to ask is, why are these kids so angry? Why these kids is killing at an alarming rate? Like, they're meaning to kill. Most of the shots are headshots and stuff like that. When they come in, they not trying to prove that I can shoot a gun no more. Because back in our time, I shoot my gun. It was a lot of professional leg shooters. But now it's a rack of professional head shooters. They're trying to kill somebody.
Since I've been here, which is going on 12 years, it's just been more prevalent that there's younger kids doing more violent things, and it's disheartening. It's disheartening because they're throwing their future away. Number one, number two, we all want a safe environment to live in for us, our families, and everybody else. And it's just more and more prevalent.
In Chicago, they're shooting, and that's what's getting front page or the big story on the news. So now, what's that going to do here? They want to become famous, or a lot of the times they doing it for a name.
2-3 people that's with me now, and 2-3 people that's with me before. That that's all they do all day long is cry. Why? And it's crazy because of the fact that this one kid, without naming names, he was crying to me. He's like, man, why is this happening to me? I had to tell him, you killed somebody. Do you realize that? You took somebody's life. And you around here screaming out, why this happened to me? This happened to you because you made it happen to you. You wasn't thinking. And when you write your letters and when you get with your mans and them on the phone, you got to let them know, But instead, you sending false messages. He was like, yeah, you right. See, because we done went past the fact. It used to be stop the violence. Now we done went from stop the violence to stop the silence. No, let's go back to stop the violence so that way we don't have to stop the silence and we can, keep our mouths open, by stopping the violence.
The schools inevitably become part of the response to violence. Officials have tried to make schools like New York Avenue a safe refuge for young people.
It hurts sometimes, painful. It's painful. It's painful sometimes in here. Okay, we work hard. Mr. Rosa work very hard here to keep the lid on. We don't have cops around our school. I did not want them to look at New York Avenue as a building across the street, because the building across the street got vandalized. It's a difference than the building across the street than the school, the place of hope, the place that feeds me, the place where people love me. This is what kids see. The place where I can go and I can't wait to get there, okay, on Monday or whenever. So when you start thinking of it in those terms, it becomes more of the brick and mortar, but it's deeper than that. It now becomes more fulfilling to a child, multidimensionally fulfilling, if that makes sense. Not just academically, mentally, socially, spiritually. And that's what we try to do. We try to hit all those areas to make sure that our kids, irregardless, going back to what I said earlier, of what they come from or what they deal with, they can come out okay at the end. Most of our programs have an economic piece to it. We feed the kids. We have Saturday school. Feed them breakfast and lunch. That means the parents only got to feed them once on Saturday, because we got you for breakfast and lunch. Now we have a dinner program here So now we feed them breakfast, lunch, and dinner, 5 days a week. Okay, that's connected now to academics, because when you come feed your brain, we'll feed your belly. Wow. You earn your respect by first showing respect. These people don't care about your degrees. What they care about, okay, is that you are taking and loving their children as much as they are loving them, or as much as they should be loving them.
But finding opportunities for them can be a difficult task in a city in which 1 in 4 adults was unemployed this winter.
Well, it's 10 times worse than now, but it was still, rough back then. The youth tend to take from the streets, especially if there's only a father in the community and not a father and a mother in the household. As when you're young, you look for love anywhere, and anywhere you can find it. And most of the time you find it, in the streets. And it's really false love, because people will tell you, yeah, man, we love you, we're your brothers and stuff like that, when really they don't love you because of the things and the advice that they give you is something unbecoming of a person that loves you.
The kids are basically very, very good, but they're just a product of their environment. And if their environment shows them that crime pays, that's the business they enter. It's a lot easier to get to make a few dollars selling drugs than it is to get an application to get into Stockton. The value system has changed. It's not how well I treat my neighbor, it's how sharp do I look. What kind of automobile do I drive, and what concerts I go to, what kind of alcohol did I drink. It's totally different. I mean,
it starts in the home. We don't have that tough love anymore. That tough love went out the door years ago. Kids are doing whatever they want to do. Parents are scared of the kids. So it's going to take a lot to change the situation of Atlantic City and Pleasantville.
Solving crimes can be a long and challenging process, but as investigators work quietly behind the scenes, it can be frustrating for families seeking justice. Okay.
I have to let them know that you will not put my brother's murder on the back burner. I will not sit around and wait for you to tell me, no, I need to keep in touch with you so you know that he has family out here and we want to know. And I will not stop.
I think what people need to appreciate is that homicide investigations are purely reactive. They're very, very rarely proactive. You don't know when they're going to happen. You don't know where they're going to happen, and you're starting absolutely from ground zero in every single homicide.
To know she's no longer here, it's a painful feeling, but I know I got to keep on doing what I got to do, because I know what she wants, But I'll feel better once everything comes to a head, and it ends.
Do you expect that your brother's murder will be solved?
Yes. When? I don't know. I hope sooner than later. And then we can all get on with our life.
It gets better. It gets better in time. But it's still a healing process that you gotta go through.
Whatever problems you're going through out there in the world, when you feel like you're by yourself, I'll be right. I was right there once. If you ever feel I understand where you're coming from. So whenever you feel like you're by yourself in this world, I'll be right there. I'ma make you. Now you gotta. I'ma make you. Now you gotta. I'ma make you. Now you gotta. I'ma make you.